Hey Patreon, it's Matt with Olympus Reptiles, and I gotta hang this sponsor rack really quick. You know, we told you we were gonna start putting stuff up from our travels. This wasn't the first thing I had in mind, but it's actually pretty cool, and they do so much good for us and y'all that I thought we'll definitely hang this up. And we should probably put it in a fairly prominent position. So this would be the prominent position I've decided. And you get to watch my handy skills. Make sure I'm not going to fucking nail a tub closed here. That'd be embarrassing. Nope, I did not. And then I'm going to show you guys, once we turned the camera off and we started to look at these racks a little more in depth, we certainly noticed some other differences. I definitely want to share those with you too, because I think it's important for you guys, especially as customers of theirs, to see what the differences are. And with them being a sponsor for Patreon and us, remember, if you forgot, that Olympus 10 does get you your 10% discount. Eric's also really cool, being an ex-Marine, that he provides a military discount. I tried, he will not stack them, probably because if he were to stack them, he'd make literally no money from selling anything. Which I understand. So you actually get a bigger discount if you're military than even through us by about 5%. So make sure and use that too. One thing I have heard people talk about that they kind of don't like is that a lot of the stuff kind of comes out as a la carte. And what I mean is, you know, you'll look and the rack price says it's this, and by the time you start adding heat and you start adding this, you know, it seems like it's going up. Almost like a bait and switch scheme. Woohoo! That's my good handiwork right there. I assure you, that wasn't the intent. Don't look at this. This is horrible. Just like my intent wasn't to completely screw this up like a wet dream. But I did. And what I mean by that, I gotta keep my train of thought going, by it not being a bait and switch, is he did that because a lot of people were starting to run ambient temp, and so maybe they didn't need the heat tape, and so then they were paying for heat tape and not needing it. So rather than, you know what, we're gonna call that good. That'll work, and it should hold. I can always read, just He-Man that shit in there a little bit. Trying to get that to bend around the way I want it to. Ow. So, by doing it a la carte style, he was able to save people money by not selling them crap they didn't need. In other words, if you didn't need heat, or maybe you already had a bunch of Freedom Breeder tubs laying around and you didn't want to need or didn't need more tubs, you could buy just the bare bones rack if you were running, say, ambient temp and already had the tubs. Or if you needed everything, you could buy everything. If you needed the side paneling, like you see, we've never used side paneling, except for this beautiful TGR banner. You could do that. So you could kind of do whatever you wanted to do. So he didn't do that as a bait and switch. When they first started, you bought a rack and you bought it in its entirety with everything, whether you needed it or not. So I do think it's actually kind of a neat thing that they price it that way. It does make it a little confusing. I see where people have come from. They're like, well, I ordered a rack, then I have to add tubs, and I have to add this. I just feel like they're, you know, trying to hide the actual price. I get that. Not the intent, though, I promise. But I do want to show you a few more things that I've noticed once we put this together. First is the sides. So, you know, you look here, and again, these Gen 2s are very, very functional. They're great racks. I'm not going to switch them out. I'm not going to like say, oh man, I'm going to sell everything I got and get all Gen 3s. I'm excited to get the Gen 3s as we purchase more though, for damn sure. And you got these stack kits we use, and it stacks them up pretty nice and things look good. Cool. Awesome. Look at the sides over here and just look at how much nicer that looks. It's just a much more finished product. And these things literally like just go and kind of snap together, and they're pretty neat. They're pretty awesome. I mean, if one wanted to, you could add a little something like a clippy there just to make sure it couldn't slide off. You could even slide in one of those, but I don't think you're really going to need to. I mean, especially if you had multiple side by side, you could always, I guess, it doesn't want to come off. Because the way those are bevel cutted in there, they snap in. Pushing this side off kind of binds this one, so it won't let it really come out. I mean, I'm just, like, I just moved the whole thing torquing on it, and this didn't come off. So that's really cool. Really neat design on how that worked. And with a little bit of, popping, I can get those to be exactly flush, which I'll definitely do. The other thing is the rounded edge. It's just a really nice finish look. We talked about that. But there are some key things in here that I want to show you that are more about function too, and making the rack function, oh, sorry, Kurt, even better than it did before. We'll take the tub out for this one. And if you look in here, what they've done is, don't ever pee on this. They added a third rail. If anybody gets the reference about not peeing on the third rail, I'd like to know. It's an old one. So they've added a third rail, which what that's going to do is it's going to keep this much flat, or much more flat, and that in turn should make these even more stable in temp. I've never had a problem in temperature. I've never said, hey, Eric, temperature's not holding well here or there. But if you look in here, I don't want to, I'll pull this guy out so you can see all the way. You can see there's only 2 rails instead of 3, and you'll get that little bend in the middle, which could cause some temperature to be a little bit off, I would suppose, by maybe, a very small margin, like 1/10 of a degree or something. But to go ahead, add more material, make that third rail, to me it just shows, they're dedicating themselves. Kind of like I talk about incubation. I want to try to improve every year and always improve my craft. I see that same thing from TGR, where we go from the Gen 1, let's look at how far this has come, which are these guys here. We like, man, we really like the hanging style, but shit, all these were busting out, and like right there, see that? And this one's not, but how that one broke out over time. Probably my fault, because I like to hang the tubs like this. But honest to goodness, I should be able to hang the tubs like that if it's what I want to do, right? And so, we addressed it ourselves and made it work, no big deal. So then Eric goes in and he makes and redesigns the rail system. So that doesn't happen. These don't break out. They hold much better. They're actually stapled through and then a plastic weld to hold. So they're very, very sturdy. And it fixed all those problems. So they actually listened to the customers, especially the early on ones who were almost like a live beta test in some ways, and made changes to make it work better. And now he's just gone through and said, okay, it works great. Here's a few other things I can do. And not only that, I'm going to make it prettier for you. And it's just little things like adding in their emblem. It's just kind of a nice, cool touch. These TGR pieces, I just like the looks of them. Makes it a more finished product. Kurt had a good point though too. Every now and then you drop a rodent. And now when you drop that mouse, he ain't going to run underneath there. He has run underneath here. I've lost several. I've had to put traps out that run underneath there. But here, with that kick plate, it's not going to happen. So that is a functional design, but also pretty. I mean, I don't know. I really like them. The dimensions are, you think they're the same width? I'm curious. Let's just see if the dimensions are the same. Height, I would say these Gen 3s are taller only because of this puzzle piece fit. Otherwise, they'd be the same height. And so there's virtually the exact same there. Width-wise, on the Gen 2, we were at just under 17. Here, we are at just under 17. So width is going to be the exact same. So the dimensions are going to work really, really well for it. And I love them. I do. I'm very thankful to Eric for improving these. And I didn't know what could possibly get better on these, but it just did. Even too, look at this. So I still notice a little stuff. Look how rough cut this is. So see, I mean, it works great, but it's kind of a rough cut through there, just gone through the mill kind of deal. This is much more smooth. It feels more finished. I don't know if that's a different tooling they're using or maybe it's just age. It could just be age, but really, really cool. Really neat design. All right, Craig, you want to add about these?
No.
You don't think, what do you think? What's your favorite change?
The bottom kick plate.
The bottom kick plate? That's it for you. For me, it's a puzzle piece because honestly, while this works, it just kind of doesn't look the best from the side. And I didn't give a shit originally. I still really, it's not a big deal. But when I can look at this, it just has a much nicer look. And then too, I really like, I think my favorite change is probably the back plate now that I think about it. Because one of the complaints I've always had is when you run just a single rack, so I know guys will buy a single 10 stack, it's a little bit more wobbly than I'd like. And you're never going to get that all the way out of a single tin stack when you're using the XPVC. The XPV's design is to be light, but that also is going to have a little flexibility to it. But by adding the back plate to it, then that made a huge difference. The other thing is when something does get out, like a rodent, and runs back behind there, which we've had happen, or even a snake, you're not going to have it go from rack side to rack side. Wherever it's in, it's kind of stuck in there, so it'll be much easier to recover. So my favorite change is probably the back plate. All right, guys, that is all I got. Remember, Olympus 10 in all lower cases, I believe, will get you your discount through TGR. Olympus 10 in all lower cases will also get you a discount on anything from Get Hooked. So use those discounts. We try to get them for you. Use them. I mean, it's one of the many benefits, probably one of the best benefits of being a Patreon member, honestly, is you get, discounts on stuff that's really cool from other people. All right, guys, thanks for watching. See you next week.